Mary will recount the inspirational origin story of Young Living, the direct selling powerhouse she founded with her husband, the late D. Gary Young. Mary will also share her thoughts on how unwavering belief in your product and opportunity will always attract the right people to your company. Mary was introduced to the direct selling industry in 1985, and within 2 years, she had cultivated and built a successful multi-million-dollar organization. Since the inception of Young Living, Mary has combined her expansive knowledge and experience in the direct selling industry and hands-on approach to education to help Young Living become and remain the world leader in essential oils.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorhead, and today I have the honor of being joined by another direct selling legend. Today's guest co-founded with her husband one of the largest direct selling companies, pioneered a category, and is now celebrating its 30th year in business. Among her many achievements, she's been named CEO of the Year by Utah Business Magazine. I'm excited and honored to welcome the Mary Young, co-founder and CEO of Young Living. Mary, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I think we're going to have a fun time.
Absolutely. Again, just full disclosure for all the listeners, I did have the pleasure of working for Mary there at Young Living for a number of years and learned so much and was so inspired by everything she did, everything that she and Gary has created. And so I am doubly excited to sit with you again and have the chance to gain even more insights from you. So again, thank you so much. One of the things that I was so interesting learning when I was there at Young Living was a little bit more of kind of your origin story. Can you tell us a little bit about the path that led you from the professional opera world to the world of direct selling?
Well, it's an odd experience that I had. My mother and I were out at the state fair, and I like to go walking and talk to people and all that sort of thing. And I walked up to this booth, and this gentleman pulls a bottle of stevia out of his pocket, and he said, "Would you be interested in a natural sweetener?" Well, I had never heard of stevia. And I looked at him, and of course, he didn't know who he was talking to. And I said, "Well, I might be." And that was my first introduction, because he invited me to a meeting of this company that was selling the stevia. So I went, and I was fascinated. I didn't know anything. I didn't understand how the business worked at all. But I signed up like most people do, and I bought products, and I went home, and I really loved the products, but I wasn't interested in the business, because I had in my mind that the MLM industry was one where the people at the top sucked all the money from the little people at the bottom. And I was one of those little people. So I didn't like it. But I got a $5 check in the mail. And I thought, whoa, what's this? They must have made a mistake. I don't think I ever cashed it. It's probably down in my filing cabinet somewhere. But I just kind of dismissed it. And the following month, I got a check for $100. I thought, oh my goodness. So I decided I should read the policies and procedures. And I read through that. I went, oh my goodness, how come I didn't know this? Why didn't my sponsor tell me? Wow, I like this idea. And so I decided I had to restructure my organization or my thinking as I was building. And that's how I got into it. They had a car program at the time, and I was driving my little VW that I had brought home from Europe, and it didn't go in reverse, and it didn't have heating. And so I always had to park out in the far corners of the parking lot. So I was really excited. I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to get a car. And I did. And my great dream was to earn $2,000 a month. I thought I could live the rest of my life very happily on that amount of money. Well, again, not understanding how the industry works, my check grew every month. And by the end of the year, I was at $10,000. And I thought I'd gone to heaven. I mean, it was absolutely spectacular. And then I got my new car. It was just like a dream come true. So I had this business that was producing an income. I had a new car, and all because I was just excited about products. But as time went on, I became, how do you say it? I became disenamored with the leadership of the company, with the owners, because I saw that they were chasing the dollar. I saw that too much bragging about the money they had, too much display of, physical wealth. And I'm not very comfortable in that environment. So I thought, well, I wonder if I could find something else where I would fit better. Well, I got a call inviting me to a meeting. And so I went out of curiosity. And I have a belief that people who are looking for truth recognize it when they hear it. And I heard truth. I was so enthralled with everything I heard. And I thought, well, I want to know who this Gary Young is. So he came to town the next month. And I went and I sat in the front row. And I tell you, I never heard anyone who could talk so fast, give you dates, places, times, names. I mean, he was like an encyclopedia. And then he quoted scripture, which was fascinating to me. And he talked about the oils that are talked about in the Bible. And that was very fascinating to me. Well, our whole lives we talk about frankincense and myrrh as the gifts of Christmas. But what are they for? Who knows? Nobody knows that. Once you learn about essential oils, you know why. And I was just so excited about it. And again, I really didn't think I would build a business. And he had a terrible marketing plan. I, in my very loud voice, said I would never build a business with this kind of a marketing plan. And I suggested that he and I start a business together. And I told him I would run the office and he could go out and teach and educate about the products. And that's what we did.
It is an amazing story. And I really appreciate you sharing that. There's so many incredible aspects and fortuitous moments in that story. And one of the things that really stood out to me was as you joined the business, the impact that first $5 check had and that second $100 check.
It really had an impact. It did.
And just how important it is to make sure that our distributors that sign up with us. And again, Mary, as you know, this podcast is listened to by the corporate executive side who are always looking for ways to really kind of onboard and get the field and new members engaged. And those checks early on, I know make a pretty big difference. One of the things that always interested me about the story and the company as well was really the category and what you and Gary did. So essential oils in today's world, they're in such high demand. We have a lot more awareness and understanding of what they are, of those benefits, but that was not the case at all 30 years ago. Essentially, you had to pioneer the whole category. Can you share what it was like launching a company into a category where no one really knew anything about the product?
Well, it stems back to Gary's life, Gary's experience, because with all the things that he saw, he felt like what he was discovering belonged to the world. And he just started talking. He just started meeting in little groups. And people would use the oils and they would have exciting experiences. Things would happen. And they would go and tell people. And it's the same old for me. People who are looking for truth recognize it when they hear it. And there were so many people that heard truth and they wanted what Gary was talking about. They wanted to be a part of it. Sometimes people will experience the oils and say, I don't know, I just feel different. It's strange. I don't understand this. Well, everyone has their own explanation. Everyone has their own experience, and it's for each individual to have that experience.
One of the things that is so unique about Young Living is its involvement and intimacy in the supply chain. And I know you and Gary had made the decision really early on to buy farms. And so now the company owns these farms around the world where you source these essential oils from. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of owning these versus just, kind of outsourcing all of this, and also the role that the farms play in the distributor experience?
I don't know if people realize that Gary grew up farming. And so farming was part of his life. So as he began to learn about the oils, he wanted to know how they were produced. And he went to France, and that's where he met Jean-Noël Landel, who became his partner over there. And Jean-Noël introduced Gary to the farmers who were growing, harvesting, and distilling the essential oils. Well, when he saw all of that, so much of it was natural to him. He knew how to farm. He just didn't know how to grow and farm essential oil plants. And he said to me, Mary, I want my distributors to come and be a part of this. I want them to come and help. I want them to come and see what it's like. And so he just started inviting them to come and spend time with him. They came, they harvested, they planted, they were in the distillery. And it was a really big deal when he started to distill. And it's like word went out, come quick, the oil's going to come out. And everybody would race to the distillery to watch the oils bubble up in the separator. And it was a really exciting time. And people became so connected and so dedicated and wanted so much to be a part of it. And many people, many members came every year to help in St. Mary's. Well, as we grew, Gary recognized that we needed different oils that would grow in different parts of the world, because we couldn't grow everything in St. Mary's, and we could never grow everything anyway. So it's really interesting how it evolved. Naturally, when he decided to move to Utah in 1993, the first thing he said is, I've got to have a farm. And so he started looking. And he found this little piece of property down in Mona, which he bought. Was like, I don't know, 100, 150 acres. And that's where he built the first greenhouses. And again, he invited the members to come and help, and they came. They were so excited. And then we bought the current farm that we have, which is about just under 1,700 acres. And Gary did the work. When people come and work at the farm, they realize that Gary should charge more for the oils.
Absolutely.
Because what it takes to distill and produce an essential oil is massive in the work. Yeah. And people just think, oh, I go buy this little bottle and I have this oil and it's just really easy. It's not easy, and it takes tons and tons of plant material to get just a little tiny bit of oil. But it has made Young Living so solid. You have to have a powerful product that affects people in a powerful way.
It is such an extensive process. Having, witnessed it firsthand, I was blown away by the process that it takes. Again, even just from, the seeding all the way to distilling and the manufacturing and the care that the company takes is truly incredible. It's a labor of love. I know that you and Gary, don't do it for the money. It is for the impact. And you mentioned the importance of product and that's one of your focuses. And you and Gary could have easily decided to just focus on the essential oils and, just pure essential oil in a bottle and keep the product portfolio really focused. But you used essential oils as a platform and ended up building a really large product portfolio across dozens of categories. And you did this long before there was really ever consumer demand or much consumer demand for natural products. There wasn't really natural personal care products, natural nutrition products, natural beauty. That wasn't a driver for most brands. Can you talk about the approach and the strategy in expanding this portfolio where, again, essential oils is kind of the platform, but you are in so many incredible categories now?
Well, again, that started down in Gary's research center, because he would take the clients with him on the weekends to go and gather herbs. And then he would crush them and use them in his own apothecary. Well, he's looking at these herbs and he says to himself, I wonder what would happen if I put the living essence of the essential oils into the powder, the crushed herbs. He says, it stands to reason that it would make them stronger. And so he started experimenting in the kitchen. He had his own centrifuge. We have a product called Multigreen. At the time it was Vitagreen. And He put them in a centrifuge, and I've heard the story many times. But he put the powder in, and then he mixed in the oils and turned it on, and he was all excited about it. And when he turned the centrifuge off, they were stuck to the sides like glue. He said, I even had to chisel it off. He said, I just had the wrong combination, the wrong proportion. So he kept working at it until he got the right proportion. But it's just things like this. He had different experiences in his life that would cause him to make a product. And his big saying was, I always create a product for a purpose. He never created a product to make money. That is for sure.
As we mentioned earlier, you and Gary launched the company. There really weren't any other companies in the essential oil space, but over time, the category has grown and grown. The natural product space has grown and grown. How has Young Living been able to really stand out and maintain that leadership position?
If you look at the literature of most essential oil companies, you can trace it right back to Young Living, because there was no one who had the research, the documentation, the experience. Nobody. There are not enough essential oils produced in the world to meet the demand. And it's very tedious, as we've talked about. So why not just create it in the laboratory? Mm-hmm. Well, the minute you add a synthetic to an essential oil, you change its composition. You might get some benefit, many do, but you never get the whole benefit when you don't have the whole. And the more we can educate, the more powerful we become.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the education again, kind of continuing in this lightning round? It was one of the things I really wanted to touch on with you because it's such an important part of your leadership style and in the company culture. But these are potentially complex, products. It takes a while to kind of learn and get up to speed, but yet you have such an incredible wide range of understanding and experience within the distributor base, meaning somebody just signed up yesterday and you've had distributors that have been with you for 30 years that are practitioners that use it for natural health purposes. How do you make sure those coming into the business have enough info to get going, but aren't overwhelmed? And then how do you make sure the experienced, 30-year veteran can still dig in?
The biggest problem that I see is there's too much sign them up next, sign them up next, sign them up next. And that doesn't work. When I sponsored somebody, as I told you, I wanted to make sure that they were successful. Education is critical for people understanding how to use the products. But it's not just about how to use the products. It's what's the purpose? What's the mission? Why do we do what we do? Why do we have farms? Get people to the farms. Let them have that experience. Use the oils. Try this, try that. I always say with a natural product, you never know exactly what your response is going to be. And you try one, you don't get what you want, you try another.
Sure.
But the number one thing is staying close to the people who you sponsor. Help them understand who we are, why we do what we do, and what we have. That is number one. People love that interaction. The last 3 years have been so devastating worldwide because people have been locked down. They haven't been able to travel. They haven't been able to be together. I did a tour in Asia in March. John Wenton and I went to 5 different countries doing meetings. And in all 5 of those countries, those meetings were the first company get-together meetings that they had.
Wow.
And the excitement was beyond description. How sad it is that that happened in our world, because people need to be together. They need to look into each other's eyes. They need to hug each other, feel each other's energy. And when you care about someone, they can feel that when you're talking to them. It's hard to do it over a Zoom call, the internet, an email. It doesn't work the same way. That personal that personal element cannot be replaced by anything. So that's where I stand. That's how I see it.
I love that. That is such a beautiful sentiment and an important reminder to all of us in direct selling that that is what makes us most different. It's this community, it's the connection, it's the personal aspect, that high touch component that we bring to products, to a business opportunity that they really can't find in any other channel, and in any other category.
Yeah.
And also, as part of the history, the company really it's had incredible growth since its founding 30 years ago, and even periods of what I would call hyper growth. And so I'm curious, what have been some of those key drivers, and how was the company able to keep up and support that growth?
One step at a time.
That's perfect.
I personally am in awe of the growth myself. I have a hard time comprehending the numbers. I find it remarkable. But the growth comes from the value of the products, in my opinion. And there's a much greater need in today's world for pure natural products. People are sick of the chemicals. They're sick of the drugs. They don't want them. They're looking for natural means. They're looking for something that will help them. They're looking for something natural for their children. And the more that we're out there talking about what we have, the more we're going to grow. I see tremendous growth in the future because we have what people are looking for. I always say in a meeting, we're the real deal. You don't have to make it up. If you're chasing the dollar and you don't have honest, pure products, and you're trying to sell synthetics as pure products, then you have to make up your story. And it's hard to remember what you say past tense because you need to say the same thing. But I say to everyone, just tell them how you feel. You don't have to make it up because we speak truth.
Yeah.
And Gary was adamant about truth. I am adamant about truth.
I didn't have the opportunity. I wasn't fortunate to meet Gary. I certainly learned and still felt the impact from all of the wonderful stories that continue to inform the culture, the vision, to circulate there, to be present at the farm. I honestly feel like I know him, even though I never had the opportunity. You mentioned a moment ago international and your recent trip with John. Please tell John hello for me, by the way.
I will.
I'd love to get some of your thoughts on international. As you expanded into countries around the globe, how have you been able to keep such a focus on the mission, on the vision of the company?
Well, first of all, it comes from leadership. Wherever you have good leadership, you have growth. And I feel like we have the most spectacular leadership in Young Living that we've ever had. Those on the inside, company leadership. And they're really wonderful at keeping in touch and helping those in the foreign markets. But we also have very wonderful leaders out in the field.
I want to ask a few more questions kind of now, looking forward a little bit. How do you feel on the business opportunity side, on the recruiting side, the field side? What are some of the drivers of today's distributors? How are they different from maybe times in the past?
Well, I think there are two things. There are people who are mission driven and people who are money driven. If you're mission driven, I don't see any difference. It's having a good, valid, honest product that you want to share with someone else because you know it will improve their lives. Talking to people is all the same. Helping people is the same. Following up with people is the same. It all works together. The other side is the social media. Hurry up, sell something, make your money, and be on to the next one. There's the affiliate marketing. There's Amazon. There's so many more ways to get products than ever existed when I started. If you're on that side of the fence, it's going to be very different. And maybe as you're on that other side, maybe when you're buying something off of Amazon or you're selling it on Amazon, maybe you have never used the product, you're just making money. And then something happens and someone says, well, maybe you should try it. And you try it and you discover the benefit. Mm-hmm. And that changes your whole perspective. I'm on this side. I will always be on this side. I don't have a problem with people having an alternative means or using Young Living, the products, as an alternative means or a different way of making money. But is the money the driver or is the product the driver? I mean, you can do affiliate marketing and sell a product that you love. You can sell a product anywhere that you love. But if you're just selling it to make money, then you hurt the product and you hurt the rest of us who sell the product because we want to help somebody else and we love it. I don't know. It's a fine line for me. Sure. I'm really old-fashioned. And I built my original multi-level marketing business the old-fashioned way. And I still think the old-fashioned way. But I see what modern technology has created. I see things that people can do differently and better than we could when I was building. I have two sons and they both say, Mom, you're just old-fashioned. I just laugh and I say, that's great. I'll say old-fashioned and you be the new age, the new person. You know, sure. You bring the technology in, and they do. But for them, it's all about product.
Yeah.
And so whatever they do, they're not going to go wrong. But it's when you chase the dollar where things go wrong.
Yeah, that product focus has been so important. And again, such an incredible reminder to me of just the stable business, the base that it creates when you focus on the product. Absolutely. And then you can continue to kind of increase that base over time more and more. But it is such a smart strategy. You mentioned your sons, and you've been so generous with your time. I have two questions left, and then, sure. And then I'll stop bothering you here. But your sons obviously have been a part of Young Living since they were born. It's in their blood. I've seen all the photos of them at the events and the farms and the trips and everything, you know, from being newborns up until, you know, into their teens and 20s. What has it been like to see them become even more involved in the operating of the business?
Exciting, rewarding, and a huge relief. Mm-hmm. It's an absolute joy to see them so involved. And I know that when I leave this earthly existence, that Young Living will be well taken care of, and the boys will always be there caring about the mission of Young Living and what their father started.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It must be incredibly rewarding. It is. It's been even really cool for me on the outside just to see Jacob developing products and launching products, and pretty amazing, super talented young men, both of them. So my final question, Mary, and then we'll get you out of here. As you look back, you know, after starting and growing and, you know, leading a large global company, what do you feel has been maybe one of the most important leadership lessons that you've learned?
The very thing that I'm teaching everyone, that I'm saying to everyone. And that is to look for the best in the employees, to empower them to do their jobs, to believe in them, and support them in their journey of leadership. Teach people how to lead others. And you can only lead by caring about them, loving them, encouraging them, and most of all, believing in their ability to do what they came to do. That's probably what I've learned the very most.
I love that, Mary. That is such a beautiful idea, the perfect idea to end on. Thank you so much, Mary, for your time. You've been very gracious with your time. Thank you for all that you and Gary have done for the channel as a whole, for the example, for the distributors that you've taken care of over the years, for the employees that have been through those doors. Thank you. There's so many of us watching and rooting for you. And please tell Ben, Prasad, Kelly, everybody back at the office that we say hello.
I will for sure. Thank you. It's been fun for me. I love to talk about Gary, and I love to talk about how it all started because it's such an amazing story.
That it is.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for sharing
inviting me.